Welcome to a new episode of TTG Conversations 5 Questions video series. So today's episode is focused on destination marketing and the role of NTOs during our current predicament. So giving us insight on this topic is Gregg Wafelbakker, General Manager Asia of Tourism New Zealand. So based in Singapore, Gregg is responsible for Tourism New Zealand's marketing activities across China, Japan, South Korea, as well as Southeast Asia. Gregg joined Tourism New Zealand in July 2017, following 20 years of international experience in the F&B sector. So welcome, Gregg, and thank you for giving us your time.
Thanks, Karen.
I've got 5 questions for you, and here's the first. Now, very recently, on August 21st, the Singapore government lifted outbound restrictions to New Zealand and is welcoming New Zealand residents with significantly reduced health and safety measures upon arrival. So everyone in Singapore, from the consumers to tourism suppliers, are holding their breath for a reciprocal decision from New Zealand. Whether or not the government will make this decision soon, what impact does this now have on Tourism New Zealand's marketing activities in Singapore and perhaps in other Asian markets, which no doubt will be watching how this potential travel bubble progresses?
Yeah, sure. It's great. And firstly, it's great news that the Singapore government has taken the decision to open up to New Zealand travellers. I think it highlights the close relationship between our two countries, and certainly the trust Singapore has in New Zealand's response to COVID-19. And while the New Zealand border remains closed for now, we recognise the importance of staying connected, with the world during these times. And that's why, really why we've continued in our efforts to keep New Zealand top of mind globally for when the borders do reopen. And as you know, in Singapore, we recently launched the Messages from New Zealand campaign, featuring it was a fully integrated program behind it across digital, social and free-to-air TV. And as the name suggests, the campaign looks to share messages from New Zealand, start a dialogue, and really to create a connection with the rest of the world. And how this comes to life is through a series of video messages featuring Kiwis from all walks of life, coming together to share a message of hope and care to their international whānau or family. The campaign also aims to build brand love for New Zealand, reminding Singaporeans and travellers from around the world that while borders are closed for now, New Zealand is waiting to welcome them back when the time is right. And to better tell the story here in Singapore, it was quite fun. We partnered up with 3 Singaporeans, who share a strong affinity with New Zealand as friends of New Zealand. And alongside our first series of films, we worked with them to capture their own responses as Singaporeans who have been touched by their experiences in New Zealand. And moving forward, we'll be shooting more tourism-focused films and supporting assets in New Zealand this September. And these assets will be utilised, again, across our social and digital platforms. And also we have several exciting media engagements coming up later this year, and of course also into 2021.
That's good. But a message strong and valid now could be irrelevant a week later should a wave of infection surface. So how do you see tourism marketing strategies, not just that of Tourism New Zealand, but also in general by the wider tourism supplier community, having to change to cope with the fluid situation posed by the pandemic?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. That messages risk being made irrelevant through these changing and uncertain times. And as you pointed out, the situation within and between countries is changing, week to week, if not day to day. And how travel will shape up, whether to New Zealand or other destinations, really remains quite unclear. There's just so much uncertainty at the moment. However, in order for destination marketing to be sustainable in these times, we need to be agile and respond appropriately, with a focus on delivering informed, empathetic and relevant messages. The words pivot, agile and flexibility have been heavily used in 2020, but with very good reason. We believe tourism promotion needs to engage travellers in an authentic and genuine way, with the core objective of building and sustaining a connection. At TNZ, we've been telling the New Zealand story through our people, with a focus on our values such as kaitiakitanga, which means care for land, manaakitanga, hospitality, and whānau, which is family, but more importantly, treating visitors like family. And this year we're bringing those values to life with the Messages from New Zealand campaign that I mentioned before. We've done it in the past before as well. Last year with the Good Morning World campaign, where everyday New Zealanders would sort of greet the world from their favourite spot within New Zealand, and the intent to deliver a personal and genuine message. And, while the timeline remains unclear for the pandemic, brand building and value-based marketing will certainly be our focus to engage with travellers in a relevant way.
That leads us nicely to the next question. Do you see this time as a time for greater sensitivity in tourism marketing messaging, considering how there is a segment of consumers who have lost financial stability during this crisis, as well as those who continue to reject tourism for fear of imported infections? So what should travel suppliers bear in mind when looking to promote travel today?
Yeah, this is definitely a time for greater sensitivity when it comes to marketing, for many, many reasons. And we also need to be mindful that the future traveller will be much more cautious about their next adventure. Therefore, brands need to balance this need for sensitivity while still remaining relevant with consumers. For us, the key is to maintain a connection with our audience, while ensuring that we are mindful of both consumer and market sentiment. Our recommendation is not to approach destination marketing with a one-size-fits-all strategy. Instead, undertake a more geographically targeted approach, given each country is in a very different stage of lockdown or recovery, with differing needs, preferences, and certainly expectations when it comes to the future of travel. For us to better understand our market sentiment, we use market research to understand how the pandemic has shifted travellers' needs and priorities, and the impact of those on key brand metrics on things like consideration, appeal, and preference. A market-oriented approach allows us to ensure our messaging shows up in ways that are reflective of each of the market's local nuances. Finally, maintaining engagement with consumers remains key, even while marketing spend might be constrained. The impact of not being present as a brand could mean years of ongoing brand building to win that equity back again. So for Tourism New Zealand, our aim is to maintain our brand equity by ensuring our campaign messages are relevant, they're sensitive to the current environment, we're dialing up our brand values, but overall, just being present.
We've seen some NTOs having to evolve their work during this pandemic to include investments in skills training, guidance on productivity exercises for traditional or small tourism and travel companies, financing digital processes for travel suppliers, etc. Do you think these pillars of support will remain for a long time to come?
Yeah, I think yes, right. I mean, these pillars are not only essential for the travel industry to emerge out of this crisis stronger and more resilient, but also in the face of potential future crises that could equally disrupt the travel landscape. For us at TNZ, we always recognise the importance of supporting our partners, especially during these challenging times. And within New Zealand, Tourism New Zealand's been offering business support to our operators, one through Qualmark, which is the New Zealand Tourism's official quality assurance organisation. And this has been in the form of things like free business support and advice, with initiatives aimed at helping them pivot again in the domestic market, increasing their digital capability, moving in and out of hibernation, and a bunch of other things. And by way of example, we recently ran a digital masterclass with Google, where businesses learned how to get their businesses online, reach new customers with online marketing, and make overall better business decisions with the use of analytics. We're also working to support the New Zealand industry to be better equipped to welcome visitors back from a safety perspective, because the future traveller is going to be more sensitive to safety right throughout the travel journey. And across the region, we've also been running a number of consumer and trade webinars and live streams in collaboration with our New Zealand partners, just to keep the regions and the products front of mind for the trade and for the consumer.
What forms of support are deemed most critical by your travel trade partners outside of New Zealand today?
Well, for our trade partners in Singapore and across the region, what is most critical is to maintain a dialogue, at the moment, an empathetic ear, and provide access to information. Providing the necessary resource for them to stay up to date with our offerings, along with our marketing messaging, ensures that they're well equipped and ready to go once borders reopen and general travel resumes. Our trade marketing team continues to work closely with our travel agent partners here with specific training programs and events to help them stay connected with our operators in New Zealand and overall to stay up to date with their offerings. We're also running a series of bi-weekly webinars, and it's quite cool taking our travel partners on a virtual road trip to learn more about regions within New Zealand, the different products and the different activities. We've run 3 of those webinars so far, and they're really popular. About 200 agents sort of dialing in each week, which is great. And these sessions, they not only upskill our partners, so they're better equipped to sell New Zealand and travel as possible, they provide us with a valuable forum to sort of for regular engagement and connection with them, when of course face-to-face meetings at the moment, at best are difficult, if not impossible. So we're doing our best to stay top of mind for our Singaporean audience through this continued market investment across our earned work, our paid work, our own work, and of course with our channel partners. We know that it's critical not to go dark in any of our channels, and we have an important role to play to keep New Zealand brand alive in the hearts and minds of our partners and our consumers, so we can welcome them back when the borders reopen again.
Thank you so much for your time, Greg. I agree. Communications must be maintained during a tough situation. We cannot go dark. Very good point there. So thank you once again. These are the 5 questions I have for you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thanks.
And if there are topics that you'd like us to tackle on this video series, leave your comments below and we'll love to hear from you. So take care and stay safe, everyone. We'll see you again on the next episode. Thank you.